welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be making a Christmas card using some fun supplies. So I'm just going to walk you through what I plan on using, and then we'll go ahead and jump in and start putting our card together. First off, I'm going to use this vintage sled. This is a Tim Holtz vintage sled. Absolutely love this die set, and I think this is new this year. It might be from last year. I don't remember, but we're going to be using that one. We have the Simon Hurley Sparkling Snow. It's a 3D embossing folder with Spellbinders, or a collaboration that he did with Spellbinders. So we're going to use that. I also have from Spellbinders the Postage Edge rectangles, which I absolutely love these dies. And then I'm also going to be using some of the Tim Holtz Christmas 2023 backdrops pattern paper. And actually I pulled out what I think I'm going to be using, but I thought I would just flip through this. This has got some really nice papers in here, and I love the quality of the paper. And at Christmas time, I kind of lean towards more of a vintage look, and there's so many. Look at that gorgeous paper. And I kind of lean towards a lot of the vintage looking papers for Christmas, but I haven't used pattern paper in so long. I forgot how fun it is to play with pattern paper, so I think I am going to need to probably start pulling out some of my older pattern papers and playing with those and that kind of thing. So super fun. So we're gonna set some of this stuff aside, and we're gonna work on doing some planning of our die cutting. I know I'm going to be using this adorable plaid cardstock pattern paper from the Tim Holtz collection, and also the back. Oh, so I know I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use the Postage Edge die for that. So we're going to be die cutting that. For the 3D embossing folder, I am going to use some Alabaster cardstock. This is a beautiful cream colored or vanilla colored cardstock from Spellbinders. So I'm going to run this through my embossing machine. I went ahead and pulled out the dies for the sled and a whole bunch of different colored pieces of cardstock. And we are going to go ahead and kind of plan out what we're going to be doing to build our sled. So first off, the full sled, which is this piece right here, I am going to die cut in the Alabaster cardstock by Spellbinders. I'm also going to do the floral pieces, which would be the holly and the twig. We're gonna die cut that onto some artichoke cardstock by Concord and 9th. And the twig I'm actually going to cut out a couple of times because I'm going to create a cute little cluster to go onto our sled. I also have the wood piece, or the wood planks, to our sled. I'm going to use the wheat cardstock by Concord and 9th. And then there are two handles. The larger handle is what I'm going to use for the wheat cardstock as well. So I'm going to also cut that in the wheat cardstock. Then I have some crimson by Spellbinders, and for this one I'm going to be die cutting this part right here, which is the rails to our sled, and then the other handle that is also in that set, which will be on this piece of crimson cardstock. I had just the perfect slice to go ahead and cut those, so that's perfect. And then I have a little tiny piece of Simon Says stamped slate cardstock, and we're going to do this little bar right here in that slate cardstock. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of these cut out. I'm also going to go and emboss my Alabaster cardstock, and then I'm also going to die cut my postage die as well. So we have all of our pieces all die cut here. I have all of the parts to my sled. I have my floral pieces, and then I have my red pieces, and then my slate piece here. So we are going to start putting this together. And with that, I am going to be using just some liquid glue. I love the Barely Art glue. I use this all of the time. I'm also going to pull out some tweezers in case I need to hold things into place while it dries. So let's go ahead and start putting this together. I'm going to start with the, I guess you would call it the panels, the wood seat, I guess you would say, of our sled, or the wood plank. So I'm just going to add and start in the middle and build that up. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in place. And I like to just keep my tweezers around to hold things just in case, because I do sometimes get them that they pop up. So I'm going to let that dry there. And while that's drying, it's good to have maybe more than one set of tweezers to hold things in place. So we're going to let that dry, and then we'll also add in our next piece. And one thing that's nice about using a liquid adhesive is you can pull that up if you don't get it in the right spot. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and add our third panel. And I'm going to get these tweezers out of the way. That should be the nice thing about that glue, and not only is it just a great glue, but it dries fairly quick. You don't have to wait too long for it to dry. And that one looks like it's sticking down fine, so I don't need to go ahead and add anything to that. I do like to keep my die cut packaging around just so that I could take a look at it and make sure I'm putting everything in the right layers, because I know this bar goes on, but then the little slate piece that I cut out will go on before I put my red handle on. So I just wanted to double check that. So I'm going to add that longer bar going right here. Go. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that slate piece. So I'm going to add adhesive right down the middle. And then we'll get that into place. Now this is where we're going to definitely need our tweezers to hold things into place, because it's trying to go over cardstock as well as go onto cardstock underneath. So we're going to do a little operation here and hold everything into place and let that glue dry. While that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and add the rails, I guess they would be called the rails, to our sleigh. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that directly to the piece of cardstock, and we'll put that right onto our sides over here. Okay, and we just got to do our other piece here. Perfect. Those are thin pieces. By now we should be okay to remove our tweezers. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and add our rail or our top handle here. And then again, I'll use my tweezers to hold this into place as well, because it's going over a part of that middle section there. So I'm just going to take both my tweezers and hold those into place. So there we go. That is all set. What I'm going to do now is just play a little bit with some of these pieces. I cut out way more than I need, but I thought I would just kind of play and put them on. So I'm going to just put a dab of glue probably right about the top of this middle portion of the sled. And I'm just going to put a nice little clump in there. And then we are going to go ahead and lay down some of these pieces. I'm going to grab my little picky tool here so that I can hold them into place without having to put my fingers in the glue. Because once you do that, there's no getting that glue off of you. You get it everywhere. I'm going to take this one and we're going to poke out this little middle piece. And we're going to stick that right to the side here. Oops. Get in there. And then I'm going to take another one and set it right in the middle. So I think I only need 3 of these. So I just want to let this dry for a second or two. And then we also have this little twig right here. So we'll add this in. So once again, I'm just going to take my tweezers and kind of hold them into place while they're sitting in the glue. And then we'll come back and we'll finish building this up. So the glue's not all the way dry, but it's enough to keep those into place. And I'm going to take a little bit more glue and just add some layers with the little holly pieces. And then I will put that glue back on there, or those tweezers back on there, and really let this dry all the way. I'm going to add a little bit more glue to this one. And I'll use my tweezers to hold all of that into place and let that dry. While my glue is drying, I have a piece of alabaster cardstock, which is going to be our card base. And it's cut at 4 1/4 by 11. And I'm going to do a score at 5 1/2. And this will serve as a top fold card. So I'm just going to stick that in there. I like to use my Teflon folder to do my crease. And then we can go ahead and put our Scor-Buddy away. This is our embossed piece of cardstock. Now most of this is going to end up being hidden behind our pattern paper. Now for the pattern paper, I did run this through my machine to do the postage edge, but I also ran it through my sewing machine to give it a stitched edge, and I love the way it came out. But I'm going to be putting this and layering this onto this piece of the embossed cardstock because, well, I think I kind of like that texture around the edge. However, I think it needs a little bit more texture. I have had this tool in my stash for the longest time. I'm not even remembering what it's called, but it's from Tim Holtz. And I'm not even sure if this is still even available, but if it is, I will link it below with all the other supplies. But what you do is it's got all of these little blades, or it's actually a circle blade on the inside. And then there's all these little slots. And what you do is you take this and you stick your cardstock in there and just run it along your cardstock. And that'll fray up the edges and give you more texture on your cardstock, which I absolutely love. And I forgot I had this until just recently. I was looking for something else and came across it. And I was like, that has to be played with. I have not used that in a long time. So pull out those tools and things that you haven't used in a long time and start playing with them because they are fun to use and you forget how much you've enjoyed using them in the past. So that's really important. So we're going to fray all of these edges, and that's going to give even more texture to this card. You can tell I've had this for a long time because it's not in Tim's usual signature black that he does for his for some of his smaller tools, and it's one of those things that I'm glad I came across. So now we have a little extra texture that's going to get adhered right to the base of our card, and then I'm going to take the postage edge and I'm going to pop that up with some foam adhesive to give it a little bit of extra depth to the card. So let's go ahead and do that. Add some adhesive to that. There we go, lots of glue on the back of that. And then we're going to add this to our card base, making sure it sits on there nicely. Give it a second or two to hold it into place. And then go ahead and add our just added some liquid adhesive to the foam tape just so that I can work on moving this around so everything is pretty even. And in case I go crooked, I can move it around. There we go. All right, so this should be pretty dry. So we are going to actually have to let it dry one more time. I took a piece of hemp cord, and this is red hemp cord by Spellbinders, and I made a bow out of it, and I'm going to actually put that bow right onto those hollies. But I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for it to dry, So I'm gonna stick that on there, and again, my handy tweezers to hold everything into place while it's drying. You can also, if you have the some glue dots or something like that, you can also use those instead. But I'm going to use my liquid adhesive because I have no clue where my glue dots are. So we're just going to set that there and let that dry. And while we're doing that, I'm going to look for a sentiment that we're going to go ahead and put with this card. I was just looking through my sentiment strips here from Simon Says Stamp, and I was going to use these and then realized that I have one that's already gold foiled, and I thought the gold would look really nice with the card. So I have this Merry Christmas one that's already gold foiled, and all you do is just take the ones that have either the lettering or the background in black and just run it through your if you have the Gina K Fuse tool, or if you have the Mink, you would just go ahead and foil it that way. And I have videos for both of those. I'll link them below if you want to see how to do that. But since I already have this made and ready to go, I figured I'd just go ahead and use this. I'm just adding some enamel dots. When you cut out the different parts to the sled, it has little embossed or debossed areas where it has little circles. And there is a die to cut out those little circles, and they are super, super tiny. I'm using my enamel dots here to add them to our sled. So I have 3 going up at the top. I'm gonna put 1 on each end of each side of the sleigh, and then probably, I think, 2 in the middle of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish that up, and then we'll be right back. So I have that all done. I got the enamel dots on there. Took me a while because of my chubby fingers. It's really hard for me to get them in there, but they are all on there securely. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back of this piece, and then that'll get adhered to our card front, just like so. So we are going to add our sentiment. I'm just going to probably cut this down a little bit more. I was gonna kind of go across the whole card, but I think I'm just gonna cut this down a little bit more. So I'm just gonna use my scissors. I'm gonna trim off a little bit on each side. Perfect. And then I will add some little foam dots to the back, and then we'll get this adhered to our card. Going to add little pieces of foam dots to both sides, and that's really all I think we need for this. We're just going to put that so it goes over the top of our sled, just like so. And I'm already seeing that I'm not going to line this up properly, so I am going to add liquid adhesive on there, and that'll help me be able to move things around a little bit better. Just make sure that's nice and straight. That looks pretty good. I just moved it. Okay, just like that. I feel like I need some red berries for our hollies. I don't think this one is gonna actually match very well. This is the red and green dimensional dots from Spellbinders, but that red is definitely not the shade of red I want. So I'm gonna go with the red gems, the crystals, and use a couple of those. We're just going to put those right by the bow. And I'm going to go with probably the medium-sized ones here. I don't like that one. There we go. And I'm just going to stick maybe 2 or 3 gems. I'm going to go 2 mediums, maybe 1 small, right underneath the bow. I'll get one right over here. And then grab one of these little tiny ones, hopefully, and put that right at the bottom. So we have a cute little cluster of 3 of those red crystals. Adds a little shine up to the top as well. And there we go. That is our card. I love the way this came out. I love the texture on the sides, even just the little added snowflakes over here. I just love that look. And I think this would even be beautiful if we didn't put the red plaid cardstock on here and just went with that texture and the embossing from the snowflakes. But I love how this came out, and I love just the simple detail of the embossing going around the edge, the postage style die cut. Beautiful. I love this. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I will leave a link to all of the supplies I used for today's card down in the YouTube description and over on my blog if you want to check them out. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.